Having watched clips of Ethan Klein's debates with both Sam Seder and Hasan Piker, I realized there's a logic to what he's saying, a much larger pattern that is like its own language pattern that's different from just the specific statements he's making. Because they all add up to something. They're all like if you had a Rosetta Stone of Ethan Klein's statements on what he thinks of Palestine and Israel, which amounts to there are no acceptable means for recourse by the Palestinians against their oppression. None. They may not ever speak up. They may not ever protest. They certainly may never take up arms. And he kind of threw in Sam Seder's face when Sam Seder said, you can only imagine how Palestinians, after so much occupation, would take arms. And Ethan Klein, he was so bitter and angry. He's like, how's that working out for them? That's the excuse. That tells you, first of all, that's what you could say against the Jews in the Warsaw Ghetto who engaged in uprisings against the Nazis. You could say, how'd that work out for them? You could be just as angry. That's all that amounts to. That's a nothing statement other than you justify mass slaughter. And that Ethan Klein is so concerned with how everything reflects on his feelings and his warm feelings for Israel that he can't separate how what Israel and what people like him do impact others. So he's just like, this is how it impacts me. That's it. He gives a little lip service to Palestine. I know he donated money to Palestinians. He seems miserable. And I was thinking too, there's this broader pattern he's engaged in. I was like, oh, he reminds me of when I was a conservative. I used to be this chauvinistic too, in many ways. I was a big supporter of Israel as well. But back when and I'm not proud of saying this at all, because I say now this was the crime of the century, along with what Israel's doing in Palestine, I was a supporter of the Iraq War. And I realize now there was no acceptable way for Iraq and the rest of the world to give any redress to George Bush, that monster, his claims that Iraq had WMDs, they're violating all these UN measures, etc. No, the no-fly zone, shooting, whatever was going on. And I'm like, they have to be perfectly compliant with America, and they still have to accept brutal sanctions. Ethan Klein brought up South Africa. Nelson Mandela and others were called terrorists no matter what they did. He doesn't want to mention that. He doesn't want to mention that he wants perfectly compliant, silent victims. That's it. That's all that statement of, oh, how's that working out for them? That's all that amounts to. It's, I'm pissed off, and he's saying, hey, Sam, Hasan, if you hated Palestinians as much as I do, you'd want to kill them all too.